we get there. Thank you for your patience. We got an awesome panel for you tonight. Thank you, Janelle, for putting this event together. Janelle, CTO of New Iron, brought Beth Weeks, who's the Senior Vice President of Technology Engineering at Zilliant, been an Austin technology executive for a long time. Chris Berry, Senior Vice President and CTO, now PeopleAdmin, formerly of Accruent. Lana Kalashnyk, down there, Director of Engineering, Software Engineering, W Consulting Group, and then Julia Jacobs, who we haven't met yet though, JavaScript Architect at Boundary. Thank you very much for coming. And Lana, you have the mic.
First of all, thank you for having us here, and thank you for welcoming me in Austin. I'm glad to be back. I thought Houston was hot until I got here. But I'm actually going to let Janelle cover the purpose behind this panel, and then I will go over a little bit over the ground rules of how the talk is going to play out.
All right, so I met Lana at the recent conference, at the Agile Austin conference, and found out that she was doing these women in technology panels in cities to try and raise awareness of some of the problems that women were experiencing in the field. And myself working on all men teams pretty much most of my career, I definitely had some certain experiences that resonated with me, and in talking to folks, it's a really important issue, but at the same time there's a lot of systemic factors that are really concerning. So for example, we were talking about some of the statistics with 2/3 of women that actually get computer science degrees are dropping out of the field, and not dropping out of the field for family reasons. They're switching careers because it's not working out for them. And seeing some of the pressures in our work environments, my goal was to bring some awesomely successful women for you to be able to hear their first experiences and firsthand, and then to kind of look objectively, kind of take a step out of the system and see what some of those causal factors might be that are driving women out of the industry, and what we as a community can actually do about it.
Thank you. This is great. So this is going to be a more of an informal talk. We don't have prepared answers. We're not trying to sell a service. So we're just going to talk about our experiences and how we can fix it. So it makes it for a much warmer conversation, because we will be sharing some things that are personal about our lives that played in some way or another. And I hope some of you will share also. Because of that, please be sensitive. There are no wrong or right answers here. We're trying to solve a social issue and a technological issue at that. So here's the format of the panel. First, we're going to introduce ourselves, and then I will ask a series of questions to our panelists. And after they're done answering the questions, chime in if you have something to add. And we're going to try to keep the answer short, about 3 minutes each, so that we can get through them. At the end of the talk, we will ask questions from the audience. So if there's something you wanted to ask and actually spend a little bit more time on it, we will discuss it then. And that's about that. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Lana Kalashnyk. I am a woman in technology. I got into it by an accident whenever I figured out that med school would take a very long time, and it costs a ton of money. So I was trying to find a challenge, trying to find something that would help me solve some issues, some social issues. I still want to help people. And computer science came up. And I had a pretty hard time getting through school. I was working on my own in a lot of projects. Thought it was just me. Then getting out into the real world, it all made sense why I did it, because there's such a huge need for software engineers, so I'm really happy I stuck with it. But I think a lot of issues that I ran into, we all do, and that's why I'm doing this talk. Also, I'm a consultant. I'm a director of engineering for W Consulting Group, so that's what I'm doing now. And I'm based out of Houston, Texas at the moment.
So I'm Janelle Klein, CTO of Newark. So for those of you who don't know who we are, we're a software niche recruiting shop run by software folks as opposed to kind of your typical recruiting agency. I've been working for Newark for like 10 years now. I started out as a developer, then started doing consulting stuff, then getting more involved in the business side, and I've been there so long because I've essentially had the support to be able to do whatever I was really wanting to do as my interests changed. And so I've been fortunate to have a really awesome support network work-wise that listening to some of the challenges that I've run into have mainly been out of the context of consulting, where I'll go and work with an engineering team and just see some horrific things going on, and you hear a lot of stories, and so even though I live on a little island that is not a bad place to live, I'd like to help others out as well. So.
Thanks. I was gonna see if I could turn the mic on, just because I'm like really tired, and I don't know if it's really hot, and I tend to zone out, and I don't know if everybody else is gonna zone out, so I figured if.
Hello. That's really loud.
So, I don't know if this helps everybody not zone out. Okay, cool, thank you. I'm Julia Jacobs, and I'm a JavaScript architect. And the reason I'm an architect is I called myself an architect, and then people just were like, wow. And so now I'm officially an architect. So that's how I managed to move forward in my career, which sort of like defines how I've managed to make it as a woman in technology. So I have been in the industry for 20 years, and I co-ran a business with my husband for 9. I work for Fortune 10, Fortune 500 companies. I work front end, back end, upside, downside, and live to tell the tale. Thank you. Glad you're here.
All right, I'll try and keep the everybody awake theme going here. So my name is Chris Berry. I am a CTO at PeopleAdmin. For those of you not familiar with PeopleAdmin, we do HR software for the education vertical. So K through 12 higher ed, where you have highly compliant recruiting environments, performance reviews, those type of things. A little bit like that, I kind of landed in technology by accident. I was a math major, and I did kind of my freshman year and thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with this degree? Teach? No, I'm out. I got to find something else to do. But what I did love about math was all the problem solving, and was able to find a home in technology and use technology to solve problems, and got my first programming job in the United States Air Force. And so I did 8 years in the Air Force and finished up my undergraduate degree while I was in. It was 1998, I'm dating myself for sure. Y2K was a big deal, and if you had COBOL experience on a Unisys mainframe, you were very marketable. So I made the choice to leave the service and join the commercial sector, and have really never looked back. But it's great, and a little bit like Janelle, my support network, both personal and professional, has actually been very strong. And I've always felt like my results, I was able to stand on my results. Whether you're a male or female, so it's been really great, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay, Beth Weeks. I'm going to tell you some things that aren't in the bio and keep it interesting. I grew up in Horse Cave, Kentucky. You can probably tell by my accent. Yeah, that's 2,500 people. Probably counting animals too. I went to the University of Kentucky to school. I went there, I was gonna be an accounting major. I had never seen a computer in my life. I began my computer career with punch cards. Yes, I'm one of those people that started with the things that are in the Smithsonian now. But at that time, if you look at statistically, at that point, that was the high water mark of women studying computer science. So I have no idea what I have done over the last 30 years to drive it down, and I apologize for that. But I made a detour through Alabama. That was my first job out of college. I stayed there for 13 years, met my husband there. So we're both in high tech. So my spouse is in the high tech industry as well. Moved to Austin 17 years ago to work for Vignette, was there 6.5, and then currently at Zilliant, and I've been there 11.5. So I stayed places a very long time. But the challenges have been there. This topic of diversity is near and dear to my heart. And again, I go back to in college, I didn't see it as an issue because it seemed like half of us were females and half males. It really wasn't an issue at all. And when I joined the workforce, it seemed very balanced. So it was very interesting that the dean at the University of Kentucky was in Austin, Texas about 7 or 8 years ago and had dinner with me, and he said, I need your help. He said, we were really suffering at the university level with women in computer science. What's going on? I'm like, I don't know, but I'll come and see if I can help you. So I'm chair, used to be vice chair, chairman of his advisory council, and it is because I want to do what I can at the university level to help get the numbers back up. Whatever I did to bring the watermark down, I'm passionate to get it back. And it is a passion here in Austin too. I've tried to submerge myself in activities at the school level, the STEM, and have worked with Ann Richards School and have volunteered for some events at the University of Texas here that are introducing young girls to the field of engineering overall. So try to, and then every opportunity I get, when Janelle asked, I was like, absolutely, to talk about this topic and to see this room so interested in the topic is so exciting to me. And I had the opportunity last year to speak at Dreamforce on my career journey from development to executive because they did a call for diversity. And again, I'm so excited that we're talking about it and that people want to make a difference. So I hope what I add tonight will help you in some way, and I know I'll learn some things as well.
Sounds great.
There we go.
So the first question I have for the panelists is, why should we talk about women in technology? Why should we have diverse teams in general? And what are some of the effects you can see in software industry from having so few women? And I'm gonna ask Janelle.
So, one of the, so I'm currently working on writing a book right now on a learning framework that's really focused on human factors in software development. And one of the things I ran into on this effort is we've got these ideas about technical debt and object-oriented programming and all these principles that are supposed to be, the way that things are done. And one of the things that I find very different about women and men is their approach to problem solving. And that men tend to have a brute force, how do I fix it, what's the solution type of approach. Whereas women tend to have more of a hang back, reserved, let's think about this a little more type approach. And one of the things I'm seeing happening is that the main problem that I ran into that seems kind of systemic in the industry is kind of going full bore ahead with solutions and not stopping and thinking about what we're doing or whether those things are actually working, driving a lot of projects and stuff into the ground. And with social groups operating very differently, like you see an all-man social group and an all-women social group, versus a balanced social group, there's a very different kind of dynamic between different groups. And when you have women on a team, the social dynamic on the team changes quite dramatically. And one of the things I'm wondering is if whether, you know, these problems that we have from a social standpoint are actually driving a lot of the problems that we have from a technical standpoint with some of the skills that you see more common in women with regards to empathy and kind of bringing the group together and taking a step back away from the problems and thinking about it before just kind of jumping in with solutions. Those are the social aspects that seem to kind of be missing in our industry. And so I kind of believe these two things are, you know, coupled in that the social dynamic that's created from a primarily dominated by men industry ends up, you know, causing a lot of the problems that we have today. So I found that in working with my book effort, the folks that I seem to be wanting to like coach and mentor and do sort of the social aspects, but also have the technical skills to do those things, tend to be predominantly women. And I'm really wanting to, I think, bring more of the kind of empathy side skills, whether, you know, they are men and women, like into software. I think is one of a really important thing that we need to kind of accomplish in the field to solve some of these challenges.
I'm gonna go to Chris next, actually.
Thank you. So I think this is important because our businesses are diverse, first of all. Our consumers are global, global customers now. We have a diverse, most of us have diverse businesses. And bringing that diversity, into our products, into our ideas, I think we get better solutions by, just celebrating the diversity and the different ideas. That's what's great about our logic, right? It's your logic and there's no right or wrong. And collectively, we can have a better solution at the end. Women are relationship builders. I think they're consensus builders. So typically, they will, help foster teamwork, and I think that just makes the team stronger and it's healthier.
Beth, do you have anything to add?
I think what I share with people is not just the female side. I think diversity, to echo what Chris said, diversity gives better results at all levels. Business, technical solutions, diversity in general. And I think it's really hard sometimes we want to hire people like us, but it's hard to push out of that and say, yeah, embrace that diversity. And I remember, again, because when I came into this, I didn't really know it wasn't really a problem. But I noticed early in my career that I did think a little bit different and process things different. My ideas were different. And at first, I almost said, well, this means I don't think like the rest of my group. I need to move on. But I had to embrace that, and that's what I want to talk about is let's embrace that, because what you're doing is bringing a perspective to the table that needs to be brought to the table, just like all the other folks with, diversity of cultures, diversity of gender, diversity of, all of those things help us just be better businesses, and that's what we're all here for, so.
Julie, do you have anything to add?
That's right. Yeah.
In general, when we look at the issue of women in technology, we tend to find that there are two distinct issues that we're dealing with. One is the pipeline problem, so that's not enough girls are interested in technology as a viable career choice, which leads to not enough women graduating with computer science or any IT or STEM, for that matter, related degrees. And the second issue is the retention issue. So even after women have gotten all of the necessary training, they come out and they either don't even start to work in the industry, or they drop out, and they drop out at really high rates. So the next series of questions are going to deal with the pipeline issue. Why aren't girls majoring in computer science. And I think it's important for all of us to chime in on how we got into software in general. What really worries me is that right now, one of the studies that I've read, only about 3% of high school senior girls are planning to major in computer science. So the 10% that we had are going to shrink to 3 in the next 4 years if we don't do something about it. And so this problem is not going away despite us talking about it. So I'm going to go to Janelle. I'll just go this way. So how did you get started?
So I kind of fell into software a little backwards. I originally went to college to be a songwriter. So then I started to see kind of what a career in songwriting might actually be like, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is really what I want to do. So I started looking around, and then I tried art, because, you know, I like dyeing my hair crazy colors, and so that seemed like, you know, a good choice. I paint and stuff too, and as I got into that, that was really intimidating as well, just like all these just amazing artists, and, you know, I had fun playing with colors, but I'm like, I don't see myself doing this as a career. And then my now ex-husband, he's like, let's take an assembly programming class. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, it'll be really fun, we'll do it together. And I was like, all right, I'll give that a shot. And so there I was, and I found myself in this assembly programming class. And I was like, this is kind of cool. It's kind of like programming on my calculator in math. And I always really liked math, and that's pretty awesome. So, and I started writing like complete programs. Like I wrote Breakout, the game with the little paddle and the blocks. I wrote that completely in assembly with colors and everything. And just completely ignorant that there was anything out there with like, you know, higher programming languages. And I had so much fun with it that I loved that I could take an idea in my head and produce useful tools and, you know, make things. Like, it was sort of the ultimate creative medium, really. And so I started, you know, taking other programming classes and got really into it, and eventually I switched my major to computer science. So it was just almost completely by accident that I got involved in it at all.
I started getting in, I had a pretty similar background where it was creatively motivated. My dad was an MIT graduate, and